Today we're taking a tour of Universal's Islands of Adventure theme park. This is episode 4 of the Go Informed podcast. Welcome to episode 4 of the Go Informed podcast. Hey everybody, I'm your hostess Maven, and today is day 4 of your 7 days to a better Universal Orlando vacation. Today we're going to be taking a virtual tour of the Universal Islands of Adventure theme park. I'm going to put a link to Universal's map on the show notes, and you can grab them in your podcast app or head over to goinformed.net/4. And you'll find a link in there in case you want to take a look at the map while we are virtually walking through the theme park. So Universal Islands of Adventure is one of 2 main theme parks over at Universal Orlando Resort. The other park we visited yesterday, so if you missed episode 3, be sure to check that one out. We walked through Universal Studios Florida yesterday. This park was opened almost 10 years after that one opened. This one opened in 1999. It is located really literally next door to Universal Studios Florida. The 2 gates are maybe the equivalent of about a block or 2-block walk in between the 2 gates, but the parks actually butt right up against each other, and sometimes when you're in one, you can see things that are in the other park. So these guys are almost the same place, but you do need a ticket, a park-to-park ticket to go between the 2 parks during the day. So they are separate theme parks, but they have a lot in common. Okay, so a little bit about Universal Islands of Adventure. This park, the way it's organized is the sort of different themed lands in the park. They call them islands. It's a little strange because the way the park is designed, the center of the park is a lake, and the islands, in air quotes here, are surrounding the lake. So, just use your imagination. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, but don't worry about that, you guys. It's fine. So when you enter the park, you're going to enter through what they call the port of entry. This is themed in sort of a South Seas kind of piratey sort of theming. And just like at Universal Studios Florida, when you first walk into the park, what you're going to encounter will be shops and restaurants and that sort of thing. So we're going to go ahead and walk up this main stretch here towards the lake. The lake will be right in front of us. The path kind of is going to take a fork right at the lake. And I think it might be useful in terms of describing how the park is laid out if we just think of the lake like the face of a clock. So when you first come in, you're going to be kind of at 6 o'clock on the clock. And the way we're going to walk around the our map today is going to be in a clockwise fashion. So one thing that's notable here when you reach the lake at 6 o'clock is on your left, there is a Starbucks. So anybody who needs to stop for coffee, go ahead and do that in your head right now. And we're going to keep on walking as we turn to the left and we start heading around the lake. The first island that we're going to come to is Marvel Superhero Island. And there is some pretty heavy theming here, and it feels like you have stepped into a comic book. It's actually very well done, I think, and all the way down to the music, which is, it seems like you're in a video game or something. It's definitely like superhero music. Sometimes you'll see superheroes walking around in this part of the park or driving their supercars and stuff like that. It's pretty immersive. And the first big thing you're going to see, you cannot miss it, is the Incredible Hulk roller coaster. This is a giant green roller coaster that launches straight over the path, so you can't miss it. It goes shooting out really fast up high and goes straight over the path a couple of times, actually. This is an awesome, awesome roller coaster. So if you like roller coasters, you're definitely going to want to ride the Incredible Hulk at least one time. So keep this one in mind. And you can see it and hear it from almost everywhere in Islands of Adventure. As we pass a little further into Marvel Superhero Island, there is a couple of different rides here. One that I'd call your attention to is the Spider-Man ride. I think it's called the Amazing Spider-Man ride. This is a really good example of ride technology that Universal uses in quite a few rides. This one gives you there's a 3D element to it. You're riding in a vehicle which you feel like you're flying sometimes. It's really really pretty realistic feeling experience. And the whole story is you're following Spider-Man on his adventures. And it's a really, really fun ride. So you're going to want to ride that. Okay, let's keep on walking through our superhero island. And as we pass through here, we're going to move into the next island, which is called Toon Lagoon. And by the way, Lagoon is probably a good name for it because almost every ride, I think actually really every ride in Toon Lagoon is wet. Like some of the rides are really, really wet. Do not ride these rides if you don't want to get soaked. And also, if you are planning on riding, especially the worst one is called Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat Barges. This is a river rafting ride, and you might think because they have a thing in the ride vehicle to put your stuff in to keep it dry, you might think there's some semblance of being dry in this ride, but there isn't. You're probably going to end up going under a waterfall. So don't wear your good walking shoes onto this ride. And again, be aware that you're going to be really, really wet when you get off. It's a good one to actually change into a swimsuit for. So, Toon Lagoon. Toon Lagoon's theming is comic strip. So a little bit different from the Marvel, the bright colors and action in the Marvel Superhero Island. This one is a little more sedate, actually. And there's a lot of fun artwork here. If you remember the funny pages, little kids are probably not going to understand half the references here, but it is really fun if you remember the old Family Circus cartoons and Popeye and some of those things. The rides are fun, just wet. So if you're okay with wet, ride the rides. If that's not okay with you, just enjoy the atmosphere. It is fun, and the shops are fun too here in Toon Lagoon. So, but a couple things I should say too about Islands of Adventure. Each of these islands is separated by a bridge, and it's kind of subtle. I think that's how they make it supposedly be an island. But as you're passing over the bridge, that's kind of your sign that you're passing into another island. But the other way that they really change the theming subtly is through the music. And Universal, especially here in Islands of Adventure, they're really good with making the music fit the scene and the place that they're trying to make you feel like you are at. So just take a moment and notice as you're walking through, see if you can figure out when the music changed. Because for us, it's often we're already well into the land and all of a sudden we realize, oh, now we hear the Jurassic Park music and we were hearing cartoon sounds. So that's a really cool way that Universal creates the great theming that they have here in the park. And as we move into this next section, we're heading towards the Jurassic Park Island. But first, we're going to cross into, I guess, I don't know if this is still part of Jurassic Park Island or if it's its own thing, but it is the Skull Island Kong ride. This is a King Kong ride. The set for it, the facade of the ride building is amazing. It looks like some lava rock ancient temple thing. It's really well done. So you cannot miss it. So as you're walking through here, you're going to see that on your left. The ride itself is pretty exciting. It's a ride through, it's based on the Skull Island movie. You're riding through the jungle and there's all kinds of action that comes at you from both sides. And the 3D effects, I personally think are really, really good in this ride. So it is a very intense ride. I don't think I would take a little kid on it, but it depends on your kid. So just be aware of that one. It is quite intense, but it is a fun ride. So as we pass past the Kong ride, we're going to come into Jurassic Park. There is a couple things here that are pretty cool. There is the Jurassic Park River Adventure, which is basically set during the original Jurassic Park movie. And a couple other things that you're going to see in Jurassic Park are other dinosaur-related stuff. So if you have a dinosaur buff in your group, you should plan to spend a little extra time in this part of the park. They have it's basically like a hands-on museum with all kinds of dinosaur-themed stuff in it. They also have a really neat experience. It's called the Raptor Encounter. And it's sort of hidden. So as we're walking through here, on your left is the Jurassic River Adventure ride, which is the big Jurassic Park ride. But on your right, as you're walking through, you will eventually see it's kind of like a jungly space. It's just really landscaped. And there should be a sign for the Raptor Encounter. And it's a sort of a hidden little space where you line up to do this. And it's not always happening. So take a look at the sign or ask someone who's working there if the Raptor Encounter is going on. So the Raptor Encounter is it seems real. It seems like you're going to meet a real dinosaur. It's amazing. The audio animatronic figure that they use for the dinosaur is super realistic. It's like in a cage, and there's a tamer there, a trainer, and he will tell you about the dinosaur, and you can get your picture taken with the dinosaur, and it's really cool. I mean, it's hard to explain it. All I got to tell you guys is that if you get the chance, if you have a few minutes, sometimes you have to wait a few minutes, check out the Raptor Encounter in Jurassic Park. So Jurassic Park is actually a pretty big land, and you'll find yourself walking for quite a ways before you end up in the next part of the park. But it is really, I kind of like it back here. It's really peaceful, actually, as you get out into the other end of this land. There's big trees and kind of jungle themed. It's sort of a nice spot if you wanted to stop and take a break in the shade. So keep that in mind. And where we are on our clock dial right now is we're getting up to right around 11 o'clock on the clock. So we've made it almost halfway around the park at this point. So as we leave Jurassic Park, we're going to cross a bridge. And at this point, you're going to see some pretty cool stuff, which we're not going to spend a lot of time on today because tomorrow we're going to do an entire episode all about the Wizarding World. But I will tell you, we have to walk through this part of the park to get to the next land. So let me just give you a little peek as we walk through. So straight ahead of us is the town of Hogsmeade from Harry Potter. And on the left is up kind of on a hill is Hogwarts Castle. So this is a pretty amazing sight. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. So you can take a peek at it right now, but we'll come back. Don't worry. We'll come back and we'll talk a lot more about it on our next episode. We're going to cross the bridge now and we're going to head into Hogsmeade Village. The path's going to lead us around through the main street of Hogsmeade. Just again, keep moving. I know there's owls. I know there's people doing magic, and there's butterbeer. But anyway, just keep on going. We're going to pass through this. We will check it out tomorrow, okay? And after we pass through Hogsmeade, we're coming into a land that's called the Lost Continent. So I'm not exactly sure if this is meant to be ancient Greece or if this is I think it's Atlantis, but it's a little murky. There's a few things in here that are kind of fun. There is a restaurant called Mythos, which is Greek. And there's a show called The Eighth Voyage of Sinbad. So if you'd like to go see a live show, that's here in the Lost Continent. Also, a couple other things. There's some fun little shopping. If you want to get a henna tattoo, you can do that here. There's some other kind of fun little knick-knack kind of stuff you can shop for here in Lost Continent. And there's also a really cool fountain. So there's this fountain as you're walking straight through the middle of this part of the park. There's this fountain, and it just seems like it's just a nice like waterfall thing, except it talks. So if you stop for a minute and go to the fountain, it might talk to you. And it's not just randomly talking, it actually is talking to you. And it's really funny. This fountain is actually, it's a funny fountain. So definitely take a couple minutes. It's especially funny if there's a lot of people, like little kids and stuff that it's talking to. Take a few minutes to stop and check it out because it's fun. It's a fun little kind of extra that you won't find anywhere else in the park. Okay, so moving on through past the Lost Continent, we're almost to our final island of adventure here, and that is called Seuss Landing. And Seuss Landing is a Dr. Seuss themed part of the park, and it is really pretty cool. It's fun. Honestly, it's fun for any age. It's great for little kids. There's lots of rides here that little kids can ride, but actually anybody who likes Dr. Seuss is going to have fun here. So make sure that even if you're traveling with older kids or no kids, make a little time to stop in Seuss Landing. Just the design of the buildings here, the colors they use, it's like you're walking in a Dr. Seuss book. They have statues of different figures and parts of stories from Dr. Seuss books. You can go and see the House of the Onceler from the Lorax book. You can meet the Grinch and the Lorax in Seuss Landing. And the shops have a lot of really fun stuff too. So make sure that you stop and check this one out. And if you have little kids, you're going to spend more time here. There's a couple of fun rides that even with big kids, you might want to ride. There's a Cat in the Hat ride. There is they call it the Seuss Trolley, and it's a little train that runs up above this part of the park, so you can kind of get up high and get a great view around not only of the Seuss part of the park, but of the entire Islands of Adventure. And yeah, there's just some really neat little nooks and crannies in this land. Every time we go, we find something new here. So check out Seuss Landing don't just walk through. Stop, make some time to go and check it out. So now we have made it all the way around. As we walk out of Seuss Landing, we will see that big, huge, green, incredible Hulk coaster right in front of us. And this is the end of our tour today. However, you are free to go back through and ride whatever you want. So please daydream about what you think you're going to want to do when you get to Universal Islands of Adventure. And I hope that this really has helped you get a sense of what is in this park and all the different things that you can take advantage of and look forward to at Islands of Adventure. Tomorrow is a really big day because we are going to explore the entire wizarding world of Harry Potter at Universal Orlando. So that means we're going to be coming back to Islands of Adventure and heading over to Universal Studios Florida. We're going to ride the Hogwarts Express and probably do a little bit of magic too. So I hope that you'll join me for episode 5 to find out all about that. And in the meantime, if you want to check out the show notes, I will put anything that I think is going to be a good reference for you related to Islands of Adventure. You'll find that in the show notes. You can get that in your podcast app, or you can head over to goinformed.net/4 and grab the show notes. And thank you so much for joining me today. It has been great to spend the day with you at Islands of Adventure. If you are enjoying the podcast, can you please do me a huge favor and head over to iTunes or wherever you would like to review a podcast and leave a review for me. That helps other people find this podcast too. And thanks again for joining me today on our trip to Islands of Adventure. I will see you tomorrow, and I hope you have an extraordinary vacation.